throw, swing.
There it is! There it is! Get out! Get out! All right!
Hit number 4192.
Swing on and miss. And Tom Browning has pitched a perfect game.
And a high fly ball, center field. He hit it a ton. It's gone. And the 2010 Central Division Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds. And Homer Bailey has pitched a no-hitter.
You're listening to the Redlegs Radio Report with Jason and Todd on Bowling Green's home of the Reds, ESPN Radio.
Jason Harbison from the Redlegs Radio Report from Bowling Green, Kentucky, ESPN 102.7 FM and 1450 AM. Again, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, you can hear our show throughout the Reds season from 9 to 10 a.m. Central on Saturdays throughout the Reds season. So, our guest today is this guy. And he's quickly becoming a regular on our show, including Reds Fest many, many times. He was a Red catcher from 1989 to 1994 and also 96 to 97, including the 1990 World Series winning team, where in Game 2 he drove in Billy Bates from second with a hit off Dennis Eckersley to win the game for the Reds and catapult them into a sweep of the World Series that year. Please welcome back to the show, Joe Oliver. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
It's great. It's always great talking to you. I love talking to you. Love hearing all your old stories, and hope you're doing well in this pandemic time, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough time for everybody involved, and you know, we've never seen or experienced anything like this, and you know, it's tough what's going on. You know, how it's affecting sports, and I know the Reds fans and are chomping at the bit to get back there to the ballpark and support the Reds. And, you know, I could never really imagine going to a Major League ballpark and not having people to play for. And, you know, all those years I was in Cincinnati, it was definitely a special time where you knew that when you went out on the field that you were going to play in front of a really strong and appreciative crowd.
Yeah, I got to tell you, not to turn the interview around on me this early, but I was able to go up and cover 2 games from the press box this year, and I've been telling people it was just the eeriest feeling in the world with no fans in the stands. Every foul ball you'd hear hit a plastic chair, just something that it's like, I don't want to say you take for granted, but it was just a very, very eerie feeling.
You know, when I was finishing up my career in 2001, after 9/11 happened, and I was with the Red Sox, that was the only thing that I could kind of equate to maybe what was going on during this pandemic. So when we were trying to stay in shape and do simulated games, and, you know, we were there at Fenway Park working out, and there was nobody there, and you could hear the crack of the bat and, you know, guys talking in the outfield that you never hear in a game. And it was just kind of an eerie feeling. So that's the only way that I could probably say that was any kind of similarity.
Yeah, it definitely, I'm sure it took some getting used to for the players as well as some of the support staff around the stadium. So that kind of leads me to my first question here, Joe. So you've been the manager of the Portland Sea Dogs, which is a AA team in Boston's organization. How did you traverse not having a season this past 2020? Really, no one in minor league baseball played any sort of season this past year.
Well, it was, you know, had responsibilities of Zoom meetings and trying to stay involved with not only the coaching staff and the organization, but specifically trying to talk to players. You know, I was kind of really involved with a lot of the catcher conversations that we had at the upper and lower levels, and just try to create some type of mental work, try to get some mental reps, and try to stay in tune with the coaching staffs, and everybody was still trying to be on the same page and try to be creative, you know, trying to monitor guys' workouts, you know, the strength and conditioning in the physical rehab trainers and coaches. They all had their role. And so it was very creative, I guess you would say, in Zoom. Nobody knew what Zoom was 10 months ago. And, you know, now everybody hates it.
Yet here we are again. Instead of having our Reds Fest interview, we're talking via Zoom. So, Joe, that kind of leads me to my next question. Is last week minor league baseball's landscape changed immensely, kind of without a lot of people knowing, with the contraction of about 40 to 45 teams, contracting them down to 119 teams, with a lot of teams that have been around for a very long time either losing affiliation or just kind of being a different sort of minor league baseball. I'm thinking of like the Billings Mustangs, the team that you came up with long ago with the Reds, no longer affiliated with the Reds after being affiliated with them for a long time, as well as teams you managed like the Lowell Spinners, no longer affiliated. I just kind of want your take on what happened in your mind, and just really your thoughts on something that kind of, I don't want to say happened in the dark of night, but I don't think a lot of people realize the kind of severity of what happened about a week ago.
Yeah, it was something that's really changed the landscape of minor league baseball, and one, we didn't have any season at all, and that was traumatic enough, and a lot of affiliates and organizations were going to have a hard time probably surviving this, and I actually got hit with this as well. There's a lot of good quality coaches and managers who got let go during the pandemic, and I was one of them as well. So I'm not with the Red Sox anymore. I'm trying to find a job. It's contracted teams. Lowell Spinners, Billings Mustangs are no longer part of the Reds and the Red Sox organizations. They're going to try to have some of Major League Baseball sponsoring these collegiate leagues and trying to create this affiliate and try to promote these young players coming in and trying to get them before they probably get to the professional ranks and build some excitement that way. But when you start talking about realignment of a lot of these affiliates through these leagues, they needed to just go ahead and have geographical realignment anyway, because some of these road trips for some of these leagues were insane. Some of them were 14, 16-hour bus rides, and you can be getting off a bus and having to play after you have that type of travel, and it's insane. I'm 55 years old, and it's not easy for me to get up and coach or manage and instruct after being on a bus for that period of time. But I can remember being in Billings having some of those long road trips, and it was tough. It was a mental and physical grind, and I don't like the contraction part. I understand it's a financial cutback, and it helps alleviate, and I think that the MLB and the owners really expedited the process with COVID hitting, and it was a perfect time to cut back on some of these teams. And I guess if I had to make some tough decisions, this would be the best time to do it instead of a year or two down the road.
Yeah, you talked about geographically some of those long bus rides. I know just down the road from us here in Bowling Green, you had the Nashville Sounds, which are fortunately still around in AAA, but they are in the Pacific Coast League. And I mean, last time I looked at a map, Nashville is pretty much in the center of America. They're playing the Tacoma Rainers out on the West Coast. And again, I didn't do that well in geography when I was in college, but I'm pretty sure that those were some pretty long plane or bus rides going on there. So,
I have conversations with some of my younger bosses that I had, and they didn't even realize that Cincinnati was in the National League West. And I said, well, not only us, but the Atlanta Braves were also there. So, I mean, you start thinking about geographics, we're east of the Mississippi and having to play in the Western time zone. So, but you deal with it, you learn how to adapt to it. And, I hate it for minor league baseball because there's so many good teams, so many great affiliates, and these owners that have invested, quite a bit of money, not only their own, but some of the states and cities and counties. And it's a lifeblood for jobs and recreation for some of these small towns.
It really is. And I was speaking with Chris Welsh. We had him on last week on the show. And I think that you brought up a really good point, and we kind of touched on that a little bit. I'm thinking of the Bowling Green Hot Rods here in our town from the Midwest League, which is the same division that the Dayton Dragons, of course, the Reds affiliate, are associated with. Actually moving up to High A. They were in Low A, but our stadium is basically named after our town because it was paid for with taxpayers' money. And I'm sure there are many, I don't know all the logistics, but without getting too political here, I know there are a lot of teams, a lot of towns that have that problem now. And it's going to be really hard come next election time to say, hey, could you go ahead and help us pass this for an empty baseball stadium, or maybe we got a bunch of high school kids playing in it now. So there's an economic impact that really is a trickle-down effect on all of these teams.
Yeah, and I mean, you're going to have voters that are not going to forget. I mean, look how long it took baseball to come back from the strikes and the lockouts, and there were a lot of people with animosity, and rightfully so, and they didn't come to the ballparks, and they didn't buy the souvenirs, and it's going to take a long time, especially when you start talking about people's tax dollars when it probably could be earmarked or allocated for education or some other programs that are in desperate need for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you talked about some of those economic shortfalls. One thing people don't realize that minor league baseball, especially this past year, we were talking about of 2020 not having no gate sales. That's pretty much makes up the bulk of their annual business, if you will. So whereas maybe a major league team would have a contract with whether it's Fox Sports Ohio, I'm just thinking of the Reds, that they have those kind of things. I don't want to say to fall back on. They still have to also kind of come up with that money that was lost in revenue, but it's really going to hurt even the teams that are still around that did make the cut, for lack of a better phrase, this upcoming 2021 season. I think are going to have a tough time kind of making up that money.
Yeah, if you don't have fans in the stands for minor league games, that's that pays the front office that works there, and it's not like they're making a king's ransom, in salaries anyway, but it helps offset some of the meal money expenses for players and hotels and bus rentals, and the affiliates, the organizations help out with that, but there is a contracted price that these guys still have to pay. And talking with the Portland Sea Dog GM, when this first happened, he said it was probably going to take them 3 to 4 years to recover from this, no income coming in at all. And, all the affiliates are trying to be creative with having eating at the ballpark or, golf, chip and putt. They're being as creative as they possibly can to try to get something coming in to help offset some of these losses. But you're talking a lot of people who've been affected, the guys who make and the girls who make hot dog sales, and they park cars, and they're doing everything because most of those people wear multiple hats that are working in those minor league affiliates, and this is their lifeblood, and they all want to intern there and become tied with a major league club or another sports organization because they want to have that experience and understanding. And this is kind of their minor leagues as well to try to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with Joe Oliver, of course, former catcher for the Cincinnati Reds, and also that 1990 World Series winning team here on the Redlegs Radio Report. Now, Joe, switching gears a little bit, we've been lucky enough over the years, whether it's been at Reds Fest or just on radio interviews, to interview a lot of that 1990 team that you were a part of, a lot of your teammates. And there's one thing that I think rings true, and I don't want to say we've almost offended them a couple of times, but I can think of my co-host Todd Smith one time at Reds Fest was saying to Eric Davis, is like, well, how did you guys manage not being given much of a chance? Everybody expected the A's to kind of come in and sweep you guys as opposed to the other way around. And I think that's the sentiment for everyone that we've ever interviewed, been lucky enough to interview on that 90s team. So I guess I just kind of want your take on that you guys never expected it to be a problem. I mean, you, in the back of your mind, you knew you guys were going to take it to the Oakland A's that year.
Well, I really think that, throughout the whole season, we had some adversity with injuries later in the ball and throughout the season, and it helped prepare us for ultimately what happened during the World Series, losing Billy Hatcher and losing Eric Davis. And a lot of guys got some quality reps and helped us prepare. So not only did those guys become prepared, but we as teammates, it was, I don't want to say plug and play, but it was almost like, we have faith and trust in the guys that are stepping in, the Glenn Braggs, the Herm Winninghams, and we felt like we were going to be fine. And we won quite a few ball games and won the NL West, which was a powerhouse. I mean, there were a lot of really good teams and a lot of good players in that division, and it was no fluke. And whenever you have that type of success, you start to believe and build that confidence. And you don't worry about the guys on the other side of the field because you're going to take care of business in your dugout and on your side. And it doesn't matter who your opponent is. It's just the next people on the other side of the field. And we didn't take them for granted, or we didn't take them lightly. I think it was actually the opposite. I think we were taken lightly just because Oakland had so many good players and such a dominant pitching staff. I mean, you know, home run champions, batting champions, Cy Young's the best closer in the game. But, you know, we had really good players, and the main thing that we could do was throw strikes and catch the ball. And, you know, we had a lot of speed that created a lot of runs for us and put a lot of pressure on defense. And that was our game. And we understood our game, and we didn't fall in love with having to be Mark McGwire or Jose Canseco. You know, and ultimately we did hit quite a few home runs, but, you know, we came out and created and put pressure on them, and we caught the ball, and we made, you know, we pitched our rear ends off. And, you know, the Nasty Boys stepped up to the challenge, and, you know, it seemed like everybody on that staff, you know, top to bottom, all the way through the bench and everything, had something to do with it. And that's why we were so successful the whole year. I
think another thing, and you I don't know if you caught yourself doing this, but another thing that we have done when we have talked with a lot of your teammates as well, that I find fascinating, and you just did this, are still all these years later able to name off all the players and all the guys that you were with. That is amazing to me. I mean, we were lucky enough to have Sweet Lou on a couple years ago, and he could name everybody on that team. And you think about that, he went on to manage other teams. He can name all the way down to the Bat Boys, and that just kind of goes to show you the family kind of atmosphere that you guys have all these years later.
I heard Lou do an interview once, and he says that, you know, as many years as he's played or managed, he can only name the teams that were winners, you know, that won it all. And it's true. I mean, because I played, you know, 19 years of professional baseball and almost 13 years in the big leagues. And I can talk to you more about the Reds team in 90. And then when I was with Seattle in 2000, when we lost to the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. And, you know, we had, you know, incredible guys, and, you know, we became a family, and those are the things that you remember, is who's picking you up and who's got your back, and just, you just sit there and you build a bond, and you know, you have relationships that are last a lifetime, and the stories when we get together, when we come to Reds Fest, it's like, you know, we picked up right where we left off, and the nicknames, nobody forgets the nicknames and what happened. And, you know, you might not have thought about something for 10 or 15 years, and then somebody triggers it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I remember that, and hadn't talked about it in such a long time. And it's a, you know, a bond you'll never forget.
It really is. And I can echo your sentiment too, because we're lucky enough to be around you guys in the green room at Reds Fest, which is one thing that I really missed not being able to go this year with the pandemic. And it's almost like, I don't want to call you a clique or anything from high school, but you're all just kind of gathered around one another. You got your plates of food, and it's just like reunion. It really is. It's like a high school reunion almost for you guys. It's amazing.
You try to interact with some of the new and younger guys, but, you know, they have their cliques as well. And, you know, you kind of gravitate to who you know and who you can have comfortable conversations with, because you don't get to see these guys a whole lot. And, you know, fortunately we do have social media, and you can reach out to guys pretty easily. But, you know, when you're actually in the room with somebody that, you know, you were best friends and close friends with for a long period of time, you're really going to hang out with each other and try to build those relationships. Because, you know, now you're talking about your kids or your grandkids, and not so much, you know, what happened in the fourth inning in game 3 or, you know, whatever. So
that's still great though. I mean, I love hearing that kind of thing. And this is a good segue into my next question. We've actually asked you this before, but I just kind of wanted to bring it back up on this different kind of format. But here's something that's really crazy that my daughter would never understand today, and you would never hear about the LA Dodgers or the Houston Astros, who just won the World Series, going out on a basketball barnstorming tour to local high schools around the area of Cincinnati. And you guys came, I believe it was in 90, after you won the World Series, to I'm from just north of Dayton, Sydney, Ohio. And you came to my high school. You came to all of the high schools in that area. and it was basically just you were on the team and a handful of the other Reds. And I guess if I remember correctly, you went town to town, high school to high school with – it was kind of an all-star basketball league, if you will, playing like local favorites. Like you'd have a local DJ, maybe a TV personality playing against you guys. And I mean, I remember the town shut down and came out to that. And I've been trying to explain to my daughter what that's like. And there's no point of reference to even think that anything today in 2020 could even be, with all the big contracts, you'd never even do anything like that now.
No chance. No chance. With the money that they're spending and investing on guys, there's no chance. They're just too much risk of injury, and you go break a finger or roll an ankle and you miss the rest of the year for that. Oh, well, I was playing a charity high school basketball event. Yeah, that's not going to go over too well. But we had a blast doing that. And guys would come together and we would travel to all the small towns and play the alumni from high schools, or like you were saying, local celebrities. And raising charity. And halftime, we would sign autographs and take pictures with people and fans. And then when we would end the season up, our basketball season, which is so funny to say that, but we would play the Bengals at the Shoe in Cincinnati, and where UC plays, and there was 8,000 or 9,000 people there. And I've never played basketball in front of that many of people, and I was absolutely terrified. And here I am playing in front of 50 or 60,000 people playing baseball and not thinking about it, but going out there and playing basketball in front of that many people, I was afraid of shooting an air ball or falling down or whatever. But it was really cool going in there and playing the Bengals and seeing that many people coming in and appreciating the Reds and the Bengals at the same time.
Well, I can tell you guys made the front page of the Sydney Daily News, whatever day it was, the following morning that you came back to the Sydney Daily News. But to be fair, if I remember my hometown newspaper, usually there was like a little dog running through a sprinkler on the front page most days anyway. So there was, again, to kind of give you the bell curve of what was going on in the Miami Valley region in the 90s.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
those are fun days.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I'm sure to you, it probably seems like just yesterday.
It does. I mean, and some of those, you're traveling around. We would play double headers. We would go play a 4:00 game and do it, and then jump in and go to another city and start up at 8:00. So, doubleheader baseball is one thing. Doubleheader basketball, I don't think my body was built for that, even in its heyday. So.
Jason Harbison here with you on the Redlegs Radio Report from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Of course, we're talking with Joe Oliver. Now, Joe, I always I love, like I said, talking to ex-players and what they're doing now. Now, did I read that you're actually a realtor now in the Orlando, Florida region? Is that correct?
My wife and I started, I guess I'd back up a little bit. When I retired after the 2001 season, she said, she wanted to do something in her career. And so she went and decided to talk me into being a real estate agent with her. So we got our license in 2002. And so we've been realtors ever since. Been a little bit more, as passive throughout all of those first few years, but we're kind of trying to pick it back up and go full bore doing that right now. So we sell real estate here in Orlando. So anybody need to buy or sell a house, reach out and contact me. I'm not tough to find. So, it's a booming business down here, and fortunately, our governor has opened the state up and it's kept business pretty steady. And we're doing a lot of business right now. It's obviously the Christmas season, and it slows down a little bit, but I'm sure when 2001 kicks in, the good Lord willing, that we'll pick back up again.
So does anyone ever get awestruck? Like maybe you're showing a house. We've talked to Ron Oster before, and he's now a landscaper, which I think is hilarious. I'm like, I can't imagine if I went out in my front yard and I saw that Ron Oster was leading a crew of guys that are putting in trees or maybe some mulch. But have you ever done that? Have you ever, maybe there's a couple transplants from Cincinnati, because of course there's a lot of snowbirds that move south to Florida there. Have you ever had that, somebody just gets awestruck when you're unlocking a house and maybe an empty house to show somebody?
most of the time down here, I kind of just blend in with the environment, just because they didn't really hear too much about me when I was up in Cincinnati. But every once in a while, they'll say, "Did you play baseball? You look really familiar." So I'll get that from time to time. But if the conversation leads to it, I try to throw it in there to help out a little bit. But I don't sit there and market it that way, not at all. Maybe people will think, well, shoot, he was just a baseball player. What in the world is he going to know about real estate? So, but maybe he's taking one too many foul balls off the head, and he's asking me to make an offer on a house that's way too high. So, but no, it's every once in a while, we'll get somebody and that'll recognize being from the Ohio area, and it's nice. I mean, it really is. It's kind of cool, but I don't want that to be the only reason that somebody chooses me. I hope I'm doing a good service for them.
So you're saying, like, on your yard signs, you're not wearing your jersey or anything. It says Cincinnati number 9 on it.
No world champion. No, nothing like that. No.
That's good. That's not, you're not leaning on that for your marketing ploy there. That's good.
Maybe I should. I don't know.
You never know. So speaking of you and your wife, Joe, did I see, maybe it was about a year ago, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but you're pretty big on Twitter, that you guys did some kind of naked and afraid videos.
Oh boy.
All kinds of like funny stuff on there. I'm sorry, I can't even talk. I'm getting tongue tied over this. You want to tell our viewers about that? That was such a funny thing.
It probably started about 4 or 5 years ago, and one of my coaching buddies, I had turned him on to that show, Naked and Afraid, and he got absolutely hooked on it and just fell in love with it. And so we were in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains there in Salem when I managed with the Salem Red Sox there in High A in the Carolina League. And Kim and I, she loves to hike, and we were walking through the woods, and I just grabbed my cell phone and just took my shirt off, and she kind of pulled her she didn't take her shirt off, but just pulled it off her shoulders, and she sat behind me, and I ad-libbed like an episode from Naked and Afraid, talking about how we were trying to gather branches for fire and build a shelter, and noticing the animal livestock, or whatever, the animals that were in the woods, and how we were going to survive, and just made a big pun on it, and it kind of caught on. And I've had more and more people sit there and ask me when the next episode, is coming out. And I think I've told everybody that I feel like I have to change the name to, instead of Naked and Afraid, it's Afraid to be Naked. So, but it's just a lot of fun. And I have to go back and retweet it every once in a while to show some of my friends.
Well, I can say that it was hilarious. What I remember of it, it was pretty hilarious. So that's some good stuff. So, Joe, really, last question here, and I'm kind of coming right into your home here about this, but I'm loving what's behind you here. Is it some memorabilia? It looks like a Cincinnati Enquirer page from when you guys won the World Series. Maybe some old. Is this like kind of your man cave, or is this Command Central, or what do we got going on here? I love it.
It's a little area. It's a bedroom that we've turned into some memorabilia of my playing days, and my wife kind of put it all together and hung it up, and just a small piece of it. I don't like to do too much of it out in the rest of the house. I kind of have it in one little area, and not be overbearing with it. But I've got a picture of my son in high school when he pitched a perfect game in a state regional final game, and somewhere, I don't know if it's still up here anymore, but it's like my daughter, her cheerleading uniform, and just kind of things that were pretty special to me throughout my career and growing up, and just it's kind of neat, to come in here and see this and kind of reminisce and go back over. It kind of reminds you how old I am. So because these photos I see, and I'm like, I'm not that person anymore, 210 pounds there, and I'm way beyond that now. So,
well, in our minds, Joe, that it seems like just yesterday. So we thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And I wish we could have done this at Reds Fest like we've been doing the past couple of years, but this is the next best thing. So thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. And I just want to say, everybody, stay safe, and hopefully we're going to see the backside of this and come out everybody's okay.
Thanks so much, Joe. We'll talk to you later.